Let's welcome John Solomon from Just the News to the show right now. Mr. Solomon, how are you?
I am good, guys. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm sure it's a busy night. It has been a whirlwind. Yeah, it has been a whirlwind of a couple weeks. You know, the guys were wondering, John, just to start here. You once told us the story about guys showing up at your house with information or asking you about, with what's been going on. Anything like that happening now? This is crazy.
No, but I got to say, those two guys who just showed up at my house at 11 o'clock at night after I got off Hannity one night, what they told me has been so presciently true, perhaps worse than I understood. Even a few years ago when I was first credited with sort of unraveling parts of the Russia collusion case, they kept saying to me, the intelligence community and FBI were used to carry out a dirty trick against the American people using the most awesome counterterrorism, counterintelligence tools that they had been given. In other words, we weaponized we weaponized our counterterrorism and counterintelligence tools to run a psychological operation on the American public, to deceive them into believing that the man they had elected as president was actually a Russian stooge for Vladimir Putin. And when I look at it now, it is far more extensive, far more complete, far more involving of so many different people. You know, we've got House members and senators and leakers and consultants, and it was a mass conspiracy to undo the will of the American people for the 26th election and to fool them into thinking the man they had just elected was a Russian asset. And it is perhaps, I think back now at Watergate, and the moment that the public learned and the moment that Republicans learned that Richard Nixon even remotely considered asking the CIA to interfere with the FBI in the investigation of Watergate, the world turned on Richard Nixon. Here, the CIA and the FBI are running the operation. They are literally turning themselves against the very citizens that they've been entrusted to protect, and they're trying to deceive them. And I can't think of a more perilous operation to the underpinnings of our democracy, our constitutional republic, than what these people did. And those two guys, they gave me a hint. I had no idea. It was a lot worse than I ever imagined.
You mentioned Vladimir Putin. It's not lost on me the significance of all of this happening at this time, 2 days before Trump-Putin summit. You think back to Helsinki, the same hoax was going on. The Russians had hacked the DNC. That was weaponized to try to blow up those meetings then. And so here you are again. It's not lost on me the significance of all of this. And remember back then you have Robert Mueller's team. They came with this fake, phony story that they were going to charge these Russians, knowing that they would never charge them. All of that was happening back then. It's pretty interesting. It's happening all now as they meet again.
We'll never know what history would have been possible for this country, what peace might have been achieved, what wars might have been avoided, had this charlatan of a scandal not been imposed on the American people by its own intelligence and law enforcement agencies. All we can do now is to get to every last fact and get it out there, see if the Justice Department will bring anyone to accountability. The record thus far isn't very good, but there's a new sheriff in town. And then find a way to make sure that no future generation of Americans, if this is allowed to persist, we have evolved in the last 10 years. If we don't put a stop at this moment, we will have evolved from the envy of the world as the greatest constitutional republic to a certain Latin American banana republic. And that is our generation's responsibility to stop. And I don't know whether we'll succeed. I know one thing: we're going to be able to tell the American public what happened in much greater detail than ever before.
Yeah, and that kind of gets to the end on what's going to happen. So I guess we can go there because we were debating it here in the first half of the show. And of course, I'm always more of the glass half empty, especially after listening to Ron Johnson with you at 6 o'clock tonight when he says, we didn't have any whistleblowers coming any time and the statute of limitations have all run. So the chances of anybody really paying the price here is probably slim and none other than in the court of public opinion. The guys here and most of the audience disagree with me. What do you think?
Well, I can tell you what I know. Listen, I don't have an opinion because I try to stay away from opinions and just stay focused on the facts so I don't lock in or I don't get my own blinders put on by my own personal opinion. So you work really hard when you're doing this type of work, not to let not to even let yourself get to that. What's my thought? How do I think it's going to happen? Here's what I know is happening. The FBI in March, under the direction of new director Kash Patel, a man who was involved in unraveling some of this, opened up a grand conspiracy case, treating the last decade of weaponization as an ongoing criminal conspiracy, just like the mob was skimming casinos for decades, just like the cartels were selling cocaine for decades. And that opening of the case was compelling enough that the Justice Department decided to utilize a rarely used tool known as a strike force. A strike force was traditionally used against the mob and the drug cartels. Really hasn't been used very often in the last decade. It's a superstar team. You get your best prosecutors, you get your best agents and say, you're not going to do anything but figure out what crimes were committed here. And then that has now moved to the approval of the use of a grand jury, or grand juries plural, by Attorney General Pam Bondi. What does that tell us? It tells us that the statute of limitations on all 5-year crimes will be less relevant, because if you can show things happened in the last 5 years, still chargeable, you can go back and charge things that you say are the other overt acts of the conspiracy and go back to 16 and 17 and charge things here. So if it's determined, and it's an if, that John Brennan or someone else gave false testimony during their 2023 congressional hearings, and that act was an act to conceal what they had been doing back in 16, you can now charge backwards there. Now, there's also one charge that is still on the table that goes back a long time, and that is good old Adam Schiff. We now know from the whistleblower story that I broke on Monday that a Democratic staffer and a career intelligence officer trained in the best tactics of the intelligence community told the FBI and warned them multiple times from 17 to 23 that Adam Schiff told his staff in a meeting this whistleblower attended, he's a first-person eyewitness to it, that he was going to authorize the leak, the information and leaking of classified information to dirty up Donald Trump in hopes that he would get indicted, and that Schiff himself might be put on some Watergate-style committee to cement his place in political history. Most of the classified statutes have a 5-year statute of limitations. However, there's one provision that says if it's done knowingly and willfully, a statute can be extended to 10 years, meaning that Adam Schiff's alleged crimes could be still charged until 2027. And why do we think it's possibly knowing and willful? Look at what the whistleblower says. Schiff not only knew what he was doing, he told, and his staff told each other, that no one would get caught because they would just claim that they were protected by the debate and speech clause, basically the separation of powers clause of the Constitution. That's pretty knowing. That's pretty willful. That's pretty planned. If that can be proven, that 10-year statute will kick in, and we will be in a little bit different world. So there are possibilities here. I think history has told us not to get our expectations too high, but new sheriffs, new evidence, things that I couldn't even imagine 6 months ago I might learn about are there. And the second part of this conspiracy, the way that Kash Patel structured this, according to my reporting, is that it's a wash, rinse, repeat cycle. Democrats have serious legal problems. Hillary Clinton put classified emails in an insecure server to compromise national security. So we're going to accuse Donald Trump of being a Russian stooge. Hunter Biden has a foreign corruption problem and a tax problem in Ukraine. We're going to impeach Donald Trump for asking about it in Ukraine. Joe Biden finds documents in his garage in his UPenn office, and they're classified. We're going to raid Donald Trump and get him prosecuted before we have to decide on Joe Biden. And tonight, we're going to add a fourth Democratic liability. We knew it was there, but we now know it was much more serious. Hillary Clinton might have had a public corruption problem with her work as a Secretary of State in the collection of donations at the Clinton Foundation just about 5-10 minutes ago, just before I came out. In fact, I'm going on to Hannity next, but you guys are getting it first because you're my favorites. You now know that the FBI had a predicated criminal investigation that Hillary Clinton might have engaged in public corruption. 3 separate FBI offices were involved. And every single time the current agents tried to move forward in the shadows of the 2016 election, and ironically, in the first year of the Trump administration, they were thwarted. And there is a timeline that we just made public, something that Kash Patel just recently discovered. The Justice Department also has secured cooperation from potential witnesses to this cover-up, this obstruction of the FBI. Literally every step of the way, the FBI was told, stand down. We're not going to help you. You can't do that. There's an amazing quote in the timeline. Sally Yates, the Deputy Attorney General for Barack Obama, tells the FBI in March 16, right in the middle of the 2016 campaign, shut it down, meaning shut down the corruption investigation. Now that's the same Justice Department and the same FBI that is ramping up a bogus investigation of Donald Trump. If ever there was a more dichotomous treatment of two equally potential suspects in a case, Donald Trump gets jammed up and Hillary Clinton gets completely protected. There's a protection racket around here. And these agents chronicle every time. They go to U.S. attorneys' offices in New York and Washington, and they're told, you can try to proceed, but we will not give you any prosecutive help. No grand jury, no indictments. What good is that? Andy McCabe sticks his nose in there and sticks his finger in there. And Andy McCabe has a conflict of interest, we know, because he was getting money from one of Hillary Clinton's closest, or his wife was getting money from one of Hillary Clinton's closest proteges, the Virginia Governor, Terry McAuliffe. And so he's supposed to be recused, but he tells the FBI agents, you do nothing unless I approve it. He puts a total stranglehold on him. This is a hard block of the FBI that looks like the Steelers' famous steel curtain defense in the 70s. You couldn't get through that line. The FBI couldn't get through its own supervisors and its own Justice Department to pursue predicated, meaning legitimate criminal allegations against against Secretary of State and presidential nominee Hillary Clinton. How good were those allegations? We know that they had undercover informants. We know they had tape recordings. We know they had foreign leaders who acknowledged that they had been solicited and shaken down for money in return for decisions. So evidence was pretty good, but we now know the defense and obstruction of the Democratic machinery was much better. It stopped it from going forward. That's what we just broke a few minutes ago.
And this is all while Trump was campaigning. And of course, we all remember the lock her up. So he's running around saying lock her up. Meanwhile, the Obama DOJ is running cover and telling the FBI to shut it down, that we're not going down this road. Any corruption you think it is. And they put it in writing.
They did. That's what makes it so. The only thing stunning about this is that we have a contemporaneous and pretty detailed and salaciously detailed timeline of what happened. Somebody or some people either were trying to cover their butts or they were trying to make sure that somewhere in the future history of this country, we would find and discover this document and realize that Hillary Clinton got a pass when Donald Trump got a fake shingle of Russia collusion hung on his campaign house. This is serious stuff. This is stuff that makes Watergate look a little bit Mickey Mouse, to be honest with you. Yeah. And now in documents. And we're lucky because we have a president committed to the truth. And, you know, when I talk to Donald Trump, you know what Donald Trump says? I don't care about what happened to me because I beat him. I already got my revenge. I'm back in the presidency. He doesn't want this to happen. It's funny. He's really like, it's not about me anymore. I won. But some future president, some future politician, that they might still be subjected to this in some future part of our country. That's what drives his desire right now to make sure we get to the bottom of this. Kash Patel has found documents nobody thought we could find. DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, declassified things that even the CIA didn't want declassified. And Pam Bondi did the unthinkable. She's treating the Obama Clinton machinery like the mob and like drug cartels. She's just applying a strike force and a grand jury against them like we normally attack a organized criminal organization. This is a pretty extraordinary moment in history, no matter how it plays out. And I understand why most people watching tonight are going to have low expectations. We're in a really extraordinary moment, and some of the future of our republic is going to be defined by the actions of the next 6 or 8 months in this very, very big scandal.
Yeah, and I know you got a busy night, so I'm going to let you go. But it is amazing when you look at the chutzpah of all of these people. You look at Clapper. his email basically saying, hey, we need to be on the same team here. This is a big team sport.
Yeah.
We all need to be together to defend what we're doing, even though it's so out of the norm. Comey with his media guy just sending him out. Schiff talking in front of people that this is what we're going to leak. We're going to leak classified information that we know is phony classified information, doing it in front of people. Now this Clinton thing, Yates putting it in writing, saying shut it down. I mean, the brazenness of these people is extraordinary.
It is. And what does it tell us? That there was no deterrence, that they knew that the fix was in and they could get away with it. And that, I think, is the greatest future threat to America. Beyond all the things we've been through and survived and gotten through, the idea that there is a large establishment inside the government who thinks they can get away with this and may get away with it again because nobody's gotten punished, I think that's the greatest threat to our incredible experience of the first 250 years of America. It has to be stamped out, or our generation will have handed a worse America off to the next generation. And we all have to stand up and get the truth and get accountability as best we can and create some deterrence. Because I can tell you right now, there's very few people sitting in government right now who have any fear about doing this again. They do this in a second again because nobody's paid a price.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, just quick on the Schiff thing. Are there any other 302s that reflect interviews with anyone other than the original whistleblower? Do we know?
Well, they did interview one Republican staffer who did corroborate a large part of the Democratic staffers thing. They tried to interview Adam Schiff's staff, and you know what they said? Exactly what the whistleblower said they were going to say. Oh, Adam Schiff told us, speech and debate clause, you can't talk to us. We won't cooperate. And nobody compelled them to go before a grand jury. Nobody forced them to test them. They got off with a simple, concocted excuse. And here's the most amazing thing. The Justice Department also kind of told the FBI, you know what, we don't want to deal with that whole speech and debate clause thing. So they went in on it too. But you can't find, I asked the Attorney General and everyone else in the Justice Department, is there any memo that says that the speech and debate clause would exempt a member of Congress from the national security laws of the country? And nope, no one wrote that. So apparently somebody just divined it. There's no law for it, but they executed. That's how insane the last 10 years are. People made up stuff. People made up laws, people made up scandals, people made up intelligence, as we now know, and there's been no consequence for it.
Well, that's what we're going with, John. If there's no arrests, it didn't happen. That's going to be our motto going forward. So
I like it.
I mean, you've done amazing work. I mean, unbelievable work, so hard, and you continue to and bring all this to light. So, and we always appreciate you giving us a few moments. I know you got a busy night ahead of you. Always appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you guys. Have a good night.